Right now on Movie Review Talk, a giant shark, lots of dogs, and Spike Lee's best movie in years. Hey movie fans, welcome to Movie Review Talk for Collider. I'm your host, Scott Movie Mantz. Every week we review the new movies, pick a Blu-ray, streamer for something you might have missed, and great news, it is spoiler-free. You can watch to your heart's content. Every week I am joined by two guest critics, otherwise known as my friends. This week joining me, Christy Lemire. She is the host of What the Flick, and she is a film critic for RogerEbert.com. I've been dying to get you on the show from day one. Thank you for being here.
I've been dying to be gotten on since day one.
And here we are.
Thank you. Here we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, you know him as Dan Murell from Screen Junkies. He is Screen Junkies fandom now, and he's also a great film critic. He is a movie fights champion. He is a judge. He is a jury. He is an executioner, and he is my very good friend, Dan. Thank you so much for being here.
Scott, it's my pleasure. It's weird, though. I keep waiting for you to ask me movie trivia questions.
Well,
I'm not used to just sitting here and being able to talk. This is great.
Well, now, go crazy. Well, let's get right to it. Our first movie is The Meg. It's directed by John Turteltaub. A giant shark, a giant prehistoric shark, is terrorizing a deep-sea expedition, and only Jason Statham can kick its ass. Jason Statham, Big Bing Lee, Rainn Wilson, Ruby Rose. Okay, Christy, what'd you think?
It's not insane enough. I wanted to be bigger and stupider and gorier and nuttier, and it's none of the above because it's a PG-13 movie.
Okay, so
and it feels like it.
You didn't really like it.
No, you know what? I wanted to love it. I was all in for this. My son, who is 8 years old, is a massive shark expert. He went in a shark T-shirt to the Meg screening.
I saw that. I can vouch for that.
Meg cosplay. It can be done. And I was pumped for it. And I wanted it to be more like Sharknado, like Piranha 3D. Jason Statham himself even said in an article with Collider, I want to say, said that he signed up for a different movie. The script he signed on for was nuttier and gorier, and then the studio pulled it back and wanted it to be PG-13, and it really shows the restraint. You don't want restraint in a big, giant, prehistoric shark movie,
no.
And that's what exists here, and it's sort of frustrating.
Oh, Dan, what'd you think?
I agree with Christy. It felt like a movie that started out as a big, gory R-rated film, and at some point in the development phase, which has been like 2 decades long for this movie, it got pulled back to a PG-13 because they wanted more people to see it. It's not so much, my favorite movie's Jaws. I love Jaws so much. You can't expect any movie to live up to that expectation, and I don't. And even The Meg, I had a version, like Christy, I had a version in my head of like, wow, this is what I hope this movie's going to be. This is what it seems to be setting itself up to be. But even then, watching the movie, I try to set that out of my head and just take the movie for what it is. But the problem is the movie itself can't decide what it is. It feels like a mishmash. It feels like it used to be one thing, but then they're like, put in a love interest, put this in, put that in, take out this, we want PG-13, take this out. And it just feels like just a complete composite of parts of notes, of studio notes, when if they just trusted the material to be what they wanted it to be instead of what's going to give the most audience, I think that's going to drive the audience away from this because it can't decide what it is.
Right, there are glimmers of that movie. Like I think Jason Statham wants it to be that movie and is willing it to be that with various line readings. It's a megalodon. Like he knows he's in a dumb movie. And then there's a scene toward the end, which is not a spoiler. It's in the ads. There's a big bay full of swimmers and divers and partiers, and the shark is coming toward them. And in that scene, as in so many, like we go right to the edge of what you think it's going to be and what the advertising suggests it's going to be. I mean, the catch line for the movie is "pleased to eat you." You think it's going to be that kind of fun. Also, it kind of looks like crap.
Well, okay. I don't know.
The underwater stuff is hard to follow. It's murky. And I want murky precision in my shark-eating people movies.
Well, I'm going to be the minority opinion on this one. Not just among my panelists here today, but on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's like a 30 or 40%. Whatever it is, I had very, very low expectations. I know some people who went and saw the film before. Most of them said they didn't like it. My good friend Perry, Paranormal Activity, loved the film. And I'm going to side with her because I really liked the movie. I had a blast. Dan, I agree with you about the focus. There isn't much focus here. The pacing is sluggish, and it is too long. This felt like it should have been like an hour and 40-minute movie. Tops. But I did have a lot of fun with it. I feel like it's a B movie that knows it's a B movie. I mean, yeah, if it's PG-13, there's only so much they can do. But I did have fun with it. Fun in the sense that there was a nice little surprise or a nice big surprise in the film. Certainly not going to spoil that. But in terms of Sharknado, I don't really dig those movies. I think they're preposterous. But I expected something like Deep Blue Sea, which came out in 1999, which was a real tongue-in-cheek kind of movie. That's what this was. I had fun with it. Not a great movie, but it was good enough. And I actually liked seeing Jason Statham in a film where he wasn't like, fist fights and, the typical cliche-ridden Jason Statham movie. He was a little more flawed, a little more of a vulnerable hero, like we saw with Dwayne Johnson and Skyscraper. I picked up on the elements that I liked, and I went with it. Again, I know I am in the minority opinion of the Meg, but damn if I didn't really like the heck out of this
You're
movie.
reaching, looking for range from Jason Statham here. I'm not sure anybody needs or wants or expects range, but you saw it.
I did see it.
So glass half full of you. Yeah, he only has his shirt off once in this movie. That's restraint from Jason Statham, because if you're going to be, a diver and a shark expert, you've got to get in the right shape and have the right lat muscles and ab muscles perfectly toned.
My colleague Roth Cornett pointed out, and I agree 100%, that Jason Statham is Jason Statham in this movie as he is Jason Statham in every movie, and I like Jason Statham, and I liked him in this movie because he's being Jason Statham. But it seemed to me the only other cast member that was fully aware of what movie they were in was Rainn Wilson.
Exactly.
Rainn Wilson knew the score, he knew the game, he knew the movie he was in, but it stands out because he's the only one in the movie with a performance like that, and everyone else is doing this kind of very deadly serious earnest thing, and it's like it doesn't mesh well.
You see, I didn't think it was deadly serious. I felt like they didn't take it. They knew not to take it too seriously. I mean, some parts they did, but parts they didn't. And I see that. I feel like that's where the unevenness of the film kicks in, and the sluggishness and the lack of focus. And probably, yes, I agree. The movie did feel like it was a result of a focus group at a studio who wanted something that was going to play better. But what did your son think of the movie?
He liked it, but being the astute film viewer as he is, I showed him Dunkirk last summer.
You showed him Dunkirk? He's 8 years old.
Yeah, he's very mature for his age. But
Wow.
he even said he gives it a 7 out of 10. We talked about this in the car on the way home, and he had a hard time seeing, when the water is churning underwater and it is dark and it is murky, it's kind of hard to figure out who's doing what to whom where, especially with the various vehicles that are underwater. The effects aren't terribly crisp and vibrant. So he had that problem.
So he gives it a 7. What's your letter grade?
My letter
Christy?
grade, I'm going to say a C-. Can I give a minus or a plus?
You can.
C-.
Perhaps C-. How about you, Dan?
It is also not a B movie for me. It is a C movie. But, I did have enough fun in the moments where it did realize what it was and did embrace it. So I'll be a little more generous and I'll bump it up to a C+, but still not a recommendation.
I'm grading it on a curve because it is August, and August movies generally suck. Most cases. Sometimes you get surprises like The Fugitive or The Bourne Ultimatum or Don't Breathe, from a couple years ago. That was a nice surprise. This is right up there with an August film. You go, you have fun, popcorn. It's a popcorn movie. It's air conditioning. It's August. It's dog days of August. We're going to get to that movie in a few moments. But I give this B movie A, B. I enjoyed it, and there you go. Okay, moving on. The film is BlacKkKlansman. It is directed by Spike Lee. It is based on the true story of Ron Stallworth, an African-American police officer who infiltrated and exposed the Colorado Springs chapter of the Ku Klux Klan. The movie stars John David Washington, the son of Denzel Washington, Adam Driver, Topher Grace, Laura Harrier. Dan, go.
I saw this last night, so it's one of those movies that's tough to just have an instant take on. There's a lot to process, but at the same time, this is one of the things that I like about Spike Lee is there's some directors who, even with someone like Quentin Tarantino, the boundaries of what you're gonna get in a Tarantino movie. I love that Spike Lee works across so many different genres. You know, he's done mainstream films, he's done super indie films, he's done very provocative, almost abstract film, he's done hardcore dramas. I thought that this was, in some ways, the most quote-unquote mainstream film that he's done in a while, in the sense that it's at times it plays almost like a comedy, but at the same time, it deals with very serious subject matter. I thought the performances in this movie were very strong across the board. And it is a message movie in that it is very relevant and present and current, but it does not hammer you over the head throughout the majority of it. There's kind of a coda on the film that I felt took the subtext of the movie and made it the text of the movie, which while it was powerful, I felt like the movie itself also made many of the same points.
I agree.
In a more subtle way. But I don't want to take away from that climax because it is an incredibly powerful one. I was really, really impressed by how many things that Spike Lee was able to juggle with this film.
I agree.
And it doesn't feel muddled or like mixed or like it doesn't know quite what it is. It's very confident in what it is. And I think this is one of those rare films that is both very, very funny, but very, very also relevant and current and powerful, and has a message that is very of the moment.
Great points, considering you literally just saw the film. Christy.
I loved BlacKkKlansman. It is Spike Lee's best film in a very long time. It's probably one of his best ever. I would put it up there for me with 25th Hour and Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X. It's one of those films like those movies where he beautifully marries the anger and the passion with the technical precision and the poetry of what he can do technically. Quite often with some of his films, like He Hate Me or Chirac, there's great ambition and there's great intention there, but it can be a little bit unwieldy and feel a little unfocused, and the emotion of what he's trying to say takes over. Here, the tonal juggling, as you mentioned, is so precise because what he's doing is so tricky. The humor is there. It's really, really darkly funny, but quite often the laughs kind of get caught in your throat because there's such deep and disturbing truth to them, but it is very powerful and it does build steam. And I was blown away by the ending that you're talking about, and I felt like the journey he takes us on throughout and the tone he has set and built up to beautifully comes all together in that moment in a way that didn't feel forced to me. It felt like the absolute necessary and relevant place to be. And it's something we've seen before, but seeing it all over again on a big screen is a very deeply emotional experience. I'm making it sound like it's really heavy and not fun. It's really fun, and a lot of that comes from the interplay between John David Washington, who sounds exactly like his father. And that's a nice bit of a connection to Spike Lee's canon to have Denzel Washington's son star in this. He and Adam Driver have a great chemistry with each other.
Yes.
I like the journey that Adam Driver's character has to take as well, because he is a Jewish police officer having to pretend to be a Klansman, and so he has his own issues to work through with that. Everybody in this is putting forth a version of themselves, right, for their ultimate ends, their ultimate purposes, and they have to find out who they truly are in that process. I want to mention also Topher Grace is perfectly cast
scary good.
as David Duke. And again, he's doing something really difficult and delicate here because David Duke is, of course, a monster, but he's playing him like handsome and clean cut and charming and in a way that's frightening and also funny. And yeah, I'm really overwhelmed by just the balance he finds here.
You know, this is a film that I completely agree with both of you. And to add to that, yes, it's an exhilarating film. It's one of the year's very, very best movies. There is a lot that Spike Lee is juggling tonally and structurally, story-wise. There is a lot to this movie. The chemistry between John David Washington and Adam Driver is fantastic, and they are both bringing a lot to the table in their attempted expose of the KKK. In terms of like Spike Lee, like Dan, what you said, how he's juggled so much. He's so prolific. He's done more than 20 narrative features. He's done more than 10 or 11 documentaries. He's always working. He's always doing something different. In terms of commercial accessibility, I feel like BlacKkKlansman is his best since Inside Man.
I love Inside Man. It's one of my favorite Spike Lee films.
Yeah. But in terms of like, when I think of a Spike Lee movie, a movie that is provocative and challenging, and a movie that will stir conversation, a movie that addresses racism and tolerance. It is his best movie since Do the Right Thing, which came out in 1989. Like, when I go to a Spike Lee movie, I want to be provoked. Okay, this is Spike Lee uncensored. He is unfiltered. Okay, this is the type of film I go to a Spike Lee movie for. And the humor in the film doesn't take away from the drama. There is suspense to the film because both John David Washington and Adam Driver are undercover in different ways. Especially Adam Driver. There's a scene that Adam Driver's character is put in. No spoiler, but it was very, very intense.
You have no idea how it's going to go, right?
And yeah, like you said, Topher Grace as David Duke was terrific. But this is really what I go to a Spike Lee movie for. And as far as the ending. Okay, you both really liked the ending, the coda to the film.
Yeah.
You thought that was good for the movie.
It feels relevant and necessary, and it makes the film feel even more vital than it already had.
Okay, see, I felt like the coda, while effective and while a good touch to the film, I didn't think it was necessary. And I felt like it took me out of the movie. I felt like the coda, while I get why he put that coda in there, that ending in there to make it relevant for today, I felt like it was relevant for today without all of that. And I felt like it felt very tacked on. It didn't feel necessary. I get why he did it. I'm glad that a lot of people are embracing that. I just felt like it sort of took me out of the film. But I definitely feel like in terms of addressing like the racism that he does in a way that is humorous at times, but it's not a comedy. It takes place in the 70s, but it's not a period piece. It does feel so relevant for today. And what's your letter grade on this one?
I'm going to say an A, but I want to mention really fast also, I think it's really cool that there are two different movies this summer between this and Sorry to Bother You, where you have, black characters putting on a white voice to infiltrate and expose truths about racial disparity and misconceptions. And so in both movies are powerful in different ways. Sorry to Bother You is nutty and abstract and surreal. I love it. No, I love it. It's one of the best movies of the year. And this is gritty and realistic. So I'm saying A, it's one of his best movies in a very long time.
Okay, Dan.
It's a really, really, really strong movie, and the fact that he shows so much finesse and restraint, and the sense of he's never preaching. He trusts his audience. He trusts himself to just present what's happening in a way that the evils that are happening are very demonstrable, but it doesn't feel like he's hammering you over the head. It's just that when you show evil things on screen, you trust the audience to go, yeah, that's evil. I really, really enjoyed it. I give it an A-. Easily could be an A-. Letter grades for me are, I don't know. But it was really good, and I liked it a lot, and I think people should see it.
Well, I think people absolutely should see it. It does have something to say, and it says it very well, but it is also very entertaining. It is a fully realized movie in every way, shape, and form. I give BlacKkKlansman an A, and absolutely everybody. This is a movie that you have to see. One of the year's very, very best. I'm with you on Sorry to Bother You. I picked up on the talking in your white voice. I mean, wow, how crazy that two
movies
films
this summer, right? Also, we should mention really fast, Terrence Blanchard's score is amazing. One of his best for Spike Lee.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, BlacKkKlansman, do see it, and make sure you let us know. Hit us up at Collider Video, tweet me at Movie Mantz, and hashtag Movie Review Talk. Let us know what you thought of BlacKkKlansman and The Meg, two very, very different films. Moving on to a film that I just found. I missed it when I was at Sundance, but I just saw it, and it's a movie that is in theaters now. It's an independent movie. It is called Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, written and directed by Gus Van Sant, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Jonah Hill, Rooney Mara, Jack Black, based on a true story of John Callahan, who after a life-changing accident confronts his demons, finds a new lease on life, and finds his calling as a controversial cartoonist. Dan, talk to me about Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot.
Walking out of the movie, the first thing that popped in my head was when people say sometimes you get a cast so good that it transcends the material. I think that is this movie because, as I was going back in my head and kind of reviewing the movie, The script, the story, the tone, the kind of way that the movie progresses is something we've seen so many times before, of a life change, based on a true story, a life-changing accident, facing down your demons, finding redemption. Like, this is kind of the cliched movie of the week, feel-good story. But when you get actors, particularly Joaquin Phoenix, who between this and You Were Never Really Here, like I wish instead of inventing made-up categories for popular movies, that the Academy would revise acting so that you could consider an actor's entire body of work when you're nominating for the year. Because so far between this and You Were Never Really Here, he's put in 2 incredible performances in movies that were released this year. And I think that his performance leading the film, coupled with particularly Jonah Hill's supporting performance as his sponsor, transcend the material. Their performances are so strong that it overcomes what in the hands of lesser actors I think could have been very treacly and saccharine and cliche. They're so good in this movie that they become the salvation of it and the foundation of it. And I really, really like this movie because they led, and the cast is uniformly great. Rooney Mara is great. Jack Black in a very kind of unconventional role for him. Conventional and unconventional. It mixes both.
Yeah, sure.
I think that this movie is sold on the strength of its performances, and it's anchored by what I thought was a great lead performance from Joaquin Phoenix, and that is why I was very high on this movie and actually walked out of it enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah, I did too. Okay, Christy.
I'm really mixed on it, and I'm really frustrated by it, particularly because the performances are so strong. The way this film is structured is really distracting.
How so?
And quite frequently confusing, because it jumps around in time quite often for reasons that I don't always think it needs to. I mean, off the top, we see Joaquin Phoenix giving the same spiel on 3 different stages, right? And he intercuts between them. One is a big audience, one is an AA meeting and a slightly smaller audience, and one is a smaller AA group. And he gives us this shtick, this joke he tells, this kind of darkly funny joke he tells about the mother who abandoned him, an event that clearly drove his art, perhaps drove his alcoholism, but it drove him emotionally throughout his life. And throughout the course of the film, we will break down that facade as he finds out who he truly is and begins to understand himself. In that situation, the way it's cut makes sense. But Gus Van Sant jumps around in time from his John Gallahan's high-flying drunk days to his days in recovery to his days before and after the accident in a way that I'm like, okay, wait, he's in the wheelchair, but he's trying to open a bottle of vodka. Is he still drinking at this point?
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
And that took me out of it quite frequently. Because it all takes place in this 70s, era of a few years. The clothes are all the same, the hair is all the same. It's very deeply steeped in like hippie, groovy, California 70s,
Yep.
and Portland. I really like the idea of Joaquin Phoenix reteaming with Gus Van Sant. He had a supporting role in To Die For when he was young, and this is a very different kind of film, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you forget that?
I totally forgot
there you
it. Good one, Christy.
Maybe I am the movie trivia queen.
See, I forgot that
maybe
he was in it, but I do know that it came out in 1995.
You're so much better than I am at these things. You are scary, man. It's true. But this feels more to me. So this is darkly funny, like To Die For, but this feels more to me like the uplifting Gus Van Sant films, like Finding Forrester or Milk. Despite the dark humor throughout, there is definitely, as you say, like the feel-good redemption toward the end. I love his interaction with Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill is like sober Jesus here. He's like flamboyantly gay, sober Jesus, and he's hilarious, and I love their friendship with each other. I really like the couple of scenes he's in with Jack Black. In a very small space of time, Jack Black has an enormous influence on this character.
But crucial role.
And the second time we see him, it's very deeply moving. Again, I like this in bits and pieces, but I just found the way it was structured very frustrating.
You know what? Now that you mention it, like I like the film a lot. I walked out of there feeling like I liked it so much. I'm like, I had to throw it on the show today because I couldn't wait to talk about it.
And I shot that down for you, didn't I?
No, because like I remember like while I was in the moment watching the film, thinking, wait, what period is this? Because like he's in the wheelchair, but he's still trying to open up a, like whiskey or whatever it is that he's drinking, or wine, in the park with the homeless people. But overall, I felt like there was so much about this movie that helped it transcend the cliches of a triumph over tragedy biopic. And those things were the direction and the writing of Gus Van Sant. He kept it real for the most part. He kept it raw. He kept it gritty. The performances, especially Jonah Hill, who was a revelation in this movie.
He can act. He's two-time Academy Award nominee. Jonah Hill, man.
I mean, he's fantastic. And by the way, doesn't he look, because it takes place in the 70s, I felt like, wow, he looks just like Jon Voight in Coming Home.
Oh, that's good.
Got the beard,
But
the hair,
he does look, I mean, look at him. He looks like Jon Voight in Coming Home, right?
His hair is magnificent. It really is.
Yeah, he
He's
must
very
have really,
good in this.
right, and best performance by a hairstyle because, but I did think that Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic. And, along with this other film, Dan, I feel like it reminds me of just how great of an actor he is. Like Walk the Line was like such a great movie for him, 2005. And then, he sort of went off the rails with that documentary when he grew the beard and he was a character. That was weird, but I feel like he's back on track. But I felt like that the overall about this movie, John Callahan, first of all, it reminded me a little of a Harvey Pekar movie, American Splendor.
I love American Splendor.
With the way you infused a little bit of animation with the
Yeah.
cartoons. But I mean, that's really a different kind of movie. But Joaquin Phoenix, he is so committed that he earns the triumph. And you root for him. And he earns that support from the moviegoer. I felt, just everything that he went through and just how self-destructive he was. I didn't feel like I was being manipulated. I didn't feel like my buttons were being pushed like they were in the next movie we're going to talk about. But I thought it was a very engaging and engrossing film. I was riveted by the performances, and I thought it was great. What's your letter grade?
It is a B.
A B? Okay. All right. Okay.
Can I mention really fast too? It's
Yes.
a really realistic depiction of alcoholism.
Yes, it is.
The drive to whatever you have to do to find your next drink. I found that to be rather realistic. So,
Yes,
B.
B. B. Okay, Dan?
I'll go with B plus.
B plus. All right. All right. I'm going to go with an A minus on this one.
All right.
I know it's been out for a little bit, but it's in more theaters now because it opened in select cities. But do seek it out and find it. It is a very rewarding film, the kind of movie that you do have to look for, but it is absolutely worth it. Don't worry, he won't get far on foot. So make sure you hop on feet or wherever, drive over to the theater and see. Don't worry, he won't get far on foot. Next is Dog Days, which is fitting because we are in the dog days of summer, August. The movie is written and directed by Ken Marino. Cast is Nina Dobrev, Vanessa Hudgens, Eva Longoria. And this is a group of interconnected people in Los Angeles who are brought together by their dogs. In other words, if Robert Altman had lived long enough to direct an ensemble dog movie, it would have been better than Dog Days. What did you think?
You know what it is actually more like? It's like one of those Gary Marshall holiday themed.
Oh, like Mother's Day,
ensemble
Valentine's
cast,
Day.
but with dogs, but better. Okay, so I'm going to mention my kid again. It's super obnoxious. But 10 minutes into this, Nick turns to me and he goes, "Mom, it's like Mother's Day."
Wow, your son is brilliant.
But he's scarred by that. I had to drag him with me to go see Mother's Day because I couldn't find a babysitter, and he has seen it, and it's like stuck in his brain as the worst movie he's ever seen. This is kind of like that, but it has an edgier sense of humor about it, and I'm actually kind of surprised that it got a PG rating for a lot of the jokes because there's a lot of language. There's a kind of a racy joke involving a bra. There's a racy joke involving a pot brownie. There's some stuff in here that if you're thinking it's like a gentle movie for kids, it isn't. It kind of is.
Yeah.
I will admit, I sobbed through the last half hour straight of this movie for a multitude of reasons. And then we cried in the car on the way home. Nick started thinking about other stuff that was sad in the movie and brought it up, and he was crying, and that made me cry, and then he was embarrassed about crying, and I'm like, nobody can see you. It's just you and me in the car. It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, no one's watching in the car when you're stopped
nobody
at the traffic
cares.
light.
And you're 8, so it's okay if you cry. I'm a big ninny for crying. This is better than you would expect from what it sounds like on paper. I'm not sure Ken Marino wrote it.
Oh, that's right. He just
I think his
directed it.
wife co-wrote it.
Okay.
He directed. It's the second film he's directed. It does feel a bit unwieldy. It's a little overlong. It's nearly 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's way too long.
Because you have a lot of different subplots to juggle. But within those subplots, you have all these comedians like Rob Corddry, Thomas Lennon, Tig Notaro. You have people, Adam Pally, people who bring David Wayne an edge to the humor that maybe you wouldn't expect from a movie like this. So it's not as cheesy and feel good as it looks on paper. I was really surprised by the edginess of the humor, and I welcomed those moments.
Okay, I really wanted to go in. I was excited. I love pets. I love cats. I love dogs. I didn't like the movie Cats and Dogs, which came out in 2001, but that's a whole other story. I cried towards the end of this movie, Christy, but for different reasons. I wanted.
Wow, you are heart
really
of
wanted
stone.
to love this movie. Oh my
Heart of
God!
stone.
Bring the tissues. Like it's an ensemble movie with people and their dogs. Like this is going to be cute. Maybe like I'm just sort of like predicting what's going to happen. But overall, the problem I had with Dog Days was it was so contrived. It was so manipulative. I felt like my buttons were being pushed. The emotions did not feel genuine to me. And, I could have sort of graded it on a curve because I love dogs so much, but it's because I love pets and dogs so much that I felt like I expected the emotion to be real, authentic, and genuine, and it just wasn't. It was okay. I feel like this is the kind of movie that, when it does drop on iTunes and you can stream it, and it comes to Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, whatever, then you can watch a movie like this. But I just felt like it just didn't earn its emotions, and I wanted to love it, and I just, every point I got to where I was turned off, I had to go, all right, you know what? I had to cave in and give in to my feelings, trust my emotions, and go, you know what, this is not what I expected. Also, it was like a who's who. Oh, there's the kid from Stranger Things. There's the guy from This Is Us. I mean, it was like, just sort of took me out of the film a little bit. I don't know.
But the thing with the subplot with the kid from Stranger Things and the guy from This Is Us is probably the best subplot of them all.
That is the best story of them
that
all.
was
I actually
really
did
nice.
like that. Yeah,
I will acknowledge you're totally right. It pushes buttons. It goes to places that I completely expected it to. However, the emotion that it drew out of me, in spite of myself, in those moments, is the reason I am going to give it the grade that I'm going to give it, because which is a B, because it does what it intends to do. It sets out to make you laugh and make you cry, and it does indeed do those things. It kind of looks shoddy. There's some bad green screen. It's a little unwieldy. It's not the most realistic depiction of Los Angeles, I would say.
No, I would say not.
But it felt something. And I see a lot of movies and don't feel anything. And it was a nice catharsis for me. I had a good cry.
Now, my grade is a C. And based on this review, Dan, you can decide whether or not you want to see it in theaters, wait till it's at home, or maybe just not at all. Totally up to you.
I spent this time coming up with a punny name for the movie.
What is it?
Rough Actually.
Oh, good.
Rough
That's
Actually.
really good.
There you go. All right.
That's really good.
I feel split now. I feel like now I have to go see it and make up my own mind.
I agree, though. You shouldn't pay full price for it. You should watch it on TV.
Yeah, but wait till it's at home. Okay.
Fair enough.
Now on Blu-ray, the movie that started the summer, it's finally out on Blu-ray with tons of extras, including a gag reel and deleted scenes, one of which I have to say, it should have been in the film. Don't want to say which one it is, but you'll know when you see it. Avengers Infinity War, directed by the Russo brothers, Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. The cast is everyone in the MCU, including Spider-Man, who is now in the MCU. And the plot, if you don't already know, Thanos is out to get the Infinity Stones, and the Marvel superheroes are pretty much screwed. The movie made over $2 billion worldwide at the box office. So much for superhero fatigue. This is the 20th anniversary of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, following Black Panther in February with Avengers Infinity War in May. It started off the summer in theaters, and now seeing it on Blu-ray, I have to say, is a crushing reminder that the summer is almost over. But now that you've had some time to have that movie sink in, Christy, what did you and your son think of Avengers Infinity War?
Yeah, Nick's review really matters more here. I think it's the 20th Marvel movie, right?
It is, yeah.
It's the 10-year anniversary maybe, but it's the 20th Marvel movie because it wasn't the first Iron Man.
Wait. It's either the 20th. Well, wait a minute. I thought that actually Ant-Man versus the Wasp was. Oh, no, wait. Well, Spider-Man.
Anyway.
Now that Spider-Man was in the MCU, so that does make Avengers.
There's a lot of Marvel movies.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot. So I was frustrated by this because in individual moments, right, I love all the interaction with like Thor and Rocket, for example. And I love Doctor Strange and Iron Man and Spider-Man, like that banter. So individually, I kind of like, I wanted to follow that movie or I wanted to follow that movie. And I know the whole point of this is that they're all together, but the mishmashy swirling of them all just felt frantic to me and overwhelming. Having said that, the ending blew me away. I'm not going to spoil it because you've probably already seen it because as Scott pointed out, it's made $2 billion. But I was blown away. I was like, whoa, we're going there. So I do appreciate the theoretical daring of it. I don't love this movie. I really enjoy the individual Marvel movies more than I enjoy when they all get together.
Yeah,
I realize I'm wrong about that.
No.
Do you?
I'm with you because like I feel like the Avengers movies are under so much pressure to bring everybody together that it does feel a little forced. But before I get to that, Dan.
Yeah, I think the ending blew a lot of people away, including some people in the movie. It's so when I'm approaching this because as a fan of the MCU, this was a great team-up movie in the sense that like I love all most of these other movies and I love these characters and it was awesome to see them all bounce off each other and Thor and Rocket and the Guardians and Iron Man and Doctor Strange jumping in there with Spider-Man and it's like so much. The movie was very so confident and aware of the characters and how they bounced off each other. As a fan of the MCU, I really, really liked the movie. However, when I'm looking at, critically, it is also probably the least accessible in the sense that like there's no, there's one scene of exposition I think that they probably mandated had to be in there just explain what Infinity Stones are.
For
somebody that's never seen a Marvel movie. And I know a lot of people would say like, well, if you're not, why would you go see this if you're not in the MCU? It's like, I get that, but also there are going to be some people that it's just a big movie coming out. They didn't see Black Panther. They didn't see Guardians, the first Guardians of the Galaxy or Guardians 2. There's going to be stuff that's missed. So, when I'm looking at it, I think it is a great Marvel team-up movie. As a movie itself, I don't think that it stands on its own two legs in the sense of like, I couldn't pop it in like I would the first Guardians of the Galaxy or even Guardians 2 and watch on its own terms. It feels like a piece of a puzzle. Even I know that the Russos talked about how, this isn't a two-parter, this is its own movie, and then the next one is its own movie. I still think it ends on a cliffhanger. I know that there's the whole thing of like, well, no, but if you look at it from this perspective, it's not. I'm sympathetic to that viewpoint, but I still think it ends on a cliffhanger. I still think it's part one of two in the sense of like there are so many unresolved storylines that are going to have to get wrapped up in the next movie. So as an MCU fan, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's they know character. They know their characters, and this movie treats them very confidently, and it's great to see, and it pays off the relationships between a lot of them. As a movie on its own, divorced from the MCU, I still think it's a lot of fun, but it's not as self-contained as I think they think it is. And I know people say like, why would an outsider ever watch this movie? I get that sentiment, but at the same time, I think you have to take that into your critical perspective when you're viewing that. So, I do think that it's more functional as a piece of the MCU than it is its own film.
See, here's the thing. Okay, so I saw it twice in theaters. And actually, the cool thing about seeing it in theaters the first time was, so Black Panther, great movie, first black superhero on a big budget anyway, because let's not forget Blade. There were 3 of those movies. But so Chadwick Boseman, you've established this whole, the universe now as part of the MCU. And then like not even 3 months later, so when you're watching Avengers Infinity War, when you get to Wakanda and you see Black Panther, everybody cheered.
Yeah.
It was a great moment.
It was cool.
Really awesome. But watching it again at home without all the excitement of watching it on the big screen, there were a couple things that I realized with perspective, and then watching it with a sort of a fresh set of eyes without all the excitement and being influenced by the excitement of it being a big theater. First is when you bring in the element with Guardians of the Galaxy, the Russo brothers actually did a really good job of shifting the tone a little bit to what James Gunn did with those first 2 movies, but not making it feel jagged or take you out of the tone of the rest of the movie. I thought they really did a really good job of meshing that world and Ryan Coogler's world of Wakanda. Like, they did a lot here, and you have so many characters, and for the most part, not all of it, but for the most part, their presence like works. The story works. Like, having all these characters included, it makes sense for all of them to be there. More so, I would have to say, than maybe the first two Avengers movies, which I thought Infinity War was the best of the three Avengers films. And I liked that it sort of made fun of itself a little bit. Like, you have, no spoiler. I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but like when Doctor Strange goes, "Oh, I'm Doctor Strange," and Peter Parker goes, "Oh, we're using our character." He goes, "I'm Spider-Man." And like when Banner gets back to Earth and he goes, "Wait, there's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?" Like, I love stuff like that.
Right.
Let's have fun with this a little bit here.
There's a lot to juggle, as you say, and that's a good point that you make about him trying to incorporate the Guardians tone into, and a lot of that is just through music. They're playing some, like, is it Rubber Band Man they're playing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're even just coming in with a cheesy '70s song helps set the tone for that. So it's a lot of people to please, and it's a lot to get your arms around. So yes, I do appreciate the ambition of it and the task that was in front of them in trying to put it all together.
And also, I think that, I've said this elsewhere, I think on your show, is that, we're at a time where it's the 10th anniversary of the MCU. Now, these movies are based on comic book characters. And part of their success is the way the characters pop in and out of each other's movies, much like the way they pop in and out of each other's titles back in the 60s, and of course, onward, that still happens today. But in the history of movies, we've never seen anything like this. Like, Marvel Studios, what they've done, the way they've established, like, everything in Phase 1 leading to Avengers 1, and then everything leading to Avengers 2. Oh, we're going to throw in Ant-Man now, and we're going to throw in the Doctor Strange. And now, I think we're in Phase 3. I lost track of what phase we're in. But I think it's just like, what the MCU has done over the last 10 years is unprecedented in Hollywood, in movie-making history. And because we're in it, we're not really looking at it that way. We're also not looking at it that way because they're comic book movies. But out of these 21 movies now, if you include Ant-Man and the Wasp, most of them are good or great. The ones I really didn't care for, I didn't like Thor: The Dark World. I thought it was okay. I thought Iron Man 2 was okay. I thought Guardians 2 was okay. Avengers 2 was okay. But so many of these MCU movies are great. What is your favorite?
That's tough. I was just thinking about that. I love Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I love Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok was great.
Yeah, I love the first Guardians.
Okay.
Those are my
And what's your
three,
favorite MCU?
I remain a huge fan of Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Me too.
I just think that is it's a very, for me, it's a key movie in the whole MCU because it was one of the first ones to fully genre bust in the way that has kept that Ant-Man was a heist film, and the way that's kind of kept them fresh in the sense that it was just like, this is a political thriller. I think that is the movie that gave us the Captain America that everyone loves. The first Captain America movie, I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't think he gets that much to do other than, to just sort of be Captain America. I think the ideals and the values and the drive and all of the things that we love about his character happen in the Winter Soldier, as far as loyalty, knowing right and wrong, and not being afraid to stand up in the face of something that most people think is right, and saying like, no, I see the injustice here, and even though it's hard for me, I'm going to stand up against in the face of that. So I love The Winter Soldier. I think it's a great movie, and I also think it was a really important one for Marvel.
I'm with you. Winter Soldier is my favorite for everything you said, including the fact that Chris Evans, he just looked like he was having more fun playing Captain America. Like the first Captain America, directed by Joe Johnson, I thought it was okay, but this movie I felt like he got it. He was more confident in the role. Great chemistry with Scarlett Johansson, and it felt like a mini Avengers movie unto itself. The first movie outside of Avengers to be like, hey, you know what? We don't have to only do this with the Avengers movies. And look at the third Captain America. That was an Avengers movie too. But just overall, like Doctor Strange was great. I love the first Ant-Man. I've liked. Thank God they saved Spider-Man with Homecoming. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
I liked Ant-Man and the Wasp. And superhero fatigue, forget about it. I mean, you had in 2017, you had seven comic book superhero movies, like Logan,
Oh, yeah,
and
Logan counts.
Wonder Woman,
Justice League.
Justice League, but I just I think these MCU movies are great, and I definitely liked Avengers Infinity War in theaters when I saw it, but I liked it a lot more watching it at home and just embracing it for what it is, finding things about it that I didn't really appreciate the first time. Avengers Infinity War, great ending, an ending that they did sort of like tie in with the ending of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Great touch. I'm telling you, they really know what they're doing. So do check that out. And make sure, everybody, you share Movie Review Talk, share it with your friends. Make sure you comment below and be nice about it, because we do like nice positivity. And make sure you retweet us, and also, if you're listening to the podcast on Podcast One, make sure you review it, share that with your friends as well. Dan, Christy, where can people find you online?
Well, boy, so many places. On Twitter, @MurellDan. On Screen Junkies and Screen Junkies News. We're now a part of Fandom, which we're really excited about. One thing means that Roth Cornett and I can start writing reviews again. You can find those reviews starting. Roth did one for Christopher Robin. I wrote one for the Meg. You can find those on fandom.com. Also on Twitter, @GetFandom. You can find it there. And we can also see us every morning on Screen Junkies Universe, which I will not be making today because it starts in 15 minutes. But we're there every day.
Thank you for being here to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Christy, how about you?
You can't just like go through a portal.
I wish.
You can't throw a portal
I wish I
out
could just
and
like
get
do a
yourself
Doctor
out.
Strange thing and
That'd
like,
be amazing. And the cape too.
And the
You
cape
need
would be wonderful.
So I am @Christy Lemire on Twitter. On RogerEbert.com, you can find my reviews there. If you feel like going to YouTube, What the Flick is the name of our show. Rotten Tomatoes, I have a column called Parental Guidance. I also have a website, ChristyLemire.com. So yes, I have 6 jobs and I have no job.
You're all everywhere. Awesome. Well, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @MovieMan. So make sure you tweet us and let us know what you thought of Movie Review Talk. #Movie Review Talk. Tag Collider Video. Next week on Movie Review Talk, we're going to finally get to the bottom of Crazy Rich Asians, currently 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I do want to give a big shout out to our good friend Christian Harloff and your family. We are all here for you, sending our thoughts and prayers, and we are dedicating today's show to Kevin Harloff. Until next week, here's looking at you, kid.
Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode. You want to watch more? Then click up here. Or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. If you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.